Welcome back. Did you miss me? I missed you. Dear viewer, allow me to ask you a few deeply personal, very important questions. Do you like violence?
Oh! Violence.
Do you enjoy content so utterly rife with homoerotic undertones that it makes gay porn seem positively straight in comparison? Are you an enthusiast for domestic violence? Don't answer that, we both know your thoughts on that subject. But for anyone who happens to be a fan of such elements, I believe I found the perfect anime for you. Baki the Grappler, also known as Bakido, also known as Baki Son of Ogre, also known as Why Does This One Series Have So Many Titles? The manga originally debuted back in 1991 and could be regarded as the magnum opus for the author, Keisuke Itagaki, who, by and large, has used this series as a platform to call every Western form of martial arts gay. It's a martial arts manga that follows the adventures of the titular Baki Hanma on a very relatable quest, defeating his dad in a fight. Said dad, Yujiro Hanma, is often regarded in the context of the series as the single most powerful being on the planet, and not powerful in a Mike Tyson or Bruce Lee kind of way, powerful in a nuclear bomb kind of way. So powerful that he can just ignore being hit by lightning, or maul giant elephants with his bare hands like it's no big deal, or walk straight through bulletproof glass, or have the United States of America form a peace treaty with him specifically. Well, that's how you know it's a work of fiction above all else. If Yujiro Hanma existed in real life, he'd be getting drone strikes on him 3 times a day at least.
America.
So why exactly is Yujiro so powerful, you may be asking? Well, no particular reason. I guess he's just built differently. Quite literally in his case. Yujiro is essentially the Saitama of the Baki universe, a man who has attained godlike physical power so much so that barely anything can inconvenience him in any way, shape, or form. And much like Saitama, having reached the apex of the world, Yujiro has gotten bored. He's beaten all the other strong guys on the planet and, well, he needs a new challenge. That's where Baki comes in. Yes, the whole reason this literal ogre of a man had a son in the first place was in the hopes that his genetics would give him a strong opponent to fight. Again, I'm sure this is quite relatable to most of you. I suppose Yujiro is a little bit like Goku if Goku was slightly more abusive to his family. And so that's the life Baki has been born into, spending his childhood and teenage years training so he can beat literal actual god in a fist fight. No pressure.
I hate it here.
Of course, it's not like Baki can just run straight up to his dad and get involved in the final boss battle. No, this is the kind of thing you need to build up to. In true battle anime tradition, you gotta go through your training arcs and your minor antagonists and building up your repertoire of allies. You know, standard boilerplate things like that. And it has to be said that Baki's supporting cast are reflective of the series itself, somehow simultaneously incredibly cool and batshit insane, often flip-flopping between both states at a rapid rate. Seriously. I've watched my fair share of animus at this point in my life, and I don't think any other series has made me say, "That's so stupid," and then "That's so cool" out loud with alarming regularity in the way Baki does. Well, okay, except for maybe JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which is a similar but distinct breed of insane bullshit.
私はテキーラ酒を持ってまいりましたの。とってもよろしいかしら?
But getting back to the matter of Baki's supporting cast, well, it has to be said that it's certainly an interesting bunch when it comes to Baki's rivals/allies. Take Retsu, for instance, a martial arts master from China who is simultaneously incredibly cool and incredibly lame. I mean, one minute Retsu will do something incredibly cool, and then the next he'll be doing something like this.
ぐるぐるパンチ。作戦、戦法、戦略、効率等、一切の計りごとを捨て去った。純粋な感情のみ。
Yeah, this is the kind of tone that Baki likes to mess around with pretty much all the time. And then there's Doppo Orochi, who has an incredibly cool design and a really cool personality, but he doesn't seem to do anything a lot of the time. I mean, the guy looks like he'd be the main villain in any other story, but I guess if you're in the same world as Yujiro Hanma, why even bother, you know? But hey, in Orochi's case, it's certainly better to be more of a background character than a jobber, and whenever he does something, boy howdy does he do something incredibly fucking cool. And then there's Hanayama, who, you know what? I don't really want to talk about Hanayama. I'm afraid he can hear me right now. And while I don't think he necessarily counts as a character per se, I do want to take a moment to compliment Baki's narrator, in the anime at least. It's certainly not uncommon for an anime, or a manga for that matter, to have a narrator just sort of omnipresently going over the events of the story. But different stories have different approaches when it comes to narrators. Some, like Dragon Ball, treat the narrator as a fantastical storyteller who is meant to hype things up for the audience. And in others, like Kaguya-sama, the narrator is essentially a comedian who is there to poke fun at everything and anything in the source material. But in Baki's case, the narrator, quite interestingly, narrates events as if he's describing some kind of weird true crime / martial arts documentary.
相手は人ではない。その思いが リーダー格リップの細胞に闘争を命じた。
As for Baki himself, he's, yeah, well, fine. I don't really have a whole lot to say about him positively or negatively. That's not to say or imply that he's a bad character or protagonist. Certainly, it's refreshing that every once in a while you come across a series where the main character just punches his way out of problems at times. Particularly if you've just gone through a spate of media where the main character is kind of a doormat. Baki, if nothing else, is most certainly not a doormat. He's certainly capable of going into a situation polite and courteous, but if the mood arises, or if there's a need for it, he's more than capable of crushing someone like a soda can. Certainly, he's a nicer guy than his dad. Yujiro is such a tremendous, insufferable, evil asshole, and yet there's something just so engrossing about watching him be a prick to people. I can't really think of any other series where the main villain is given ample amounts of screen time in which he's just off doing random-ass side quests. I guess Yujiro needs to fill the time somehow while Baki is going through his various training arcs. And certainly those various arcs do tend to go places, like the time all the most dangerous killers in the world broke out of prison and came to Japan to fight all the strong guys there, and got the absolute shite beaten out of them for their trouble. Or the arc where Baki kidnapped the President of America so he could get sent to the most dangerous prison in the country and fight a really strong guy who was also in the same prison.
I mean this, you big bitch.
And also a man who looks suspiciously like Che Guevara, yes, the famous historical revolutionary figure Che Guevara, yeah, he's also in the same prison. No, this isn't elaborated on, it's just a thing that happens, and the Bakiverse is absolutely full of things that just happen, and you kinda just have to go along with it, just embrace the insanity. Mike Tyson and Muhammad Ali and George Bush and Obama are also characters in the Bakiverse. It just happens, just roll with it. And then there's the arc where a bunch of scientists find a frozen, perfectly preserved caveman and defrost him and bring him back to life, and all the really strong guys in Baki's friend group want to go over and fight the caveman because why not? That's a thing you do when you're a really strong martial arts guy, I guess.
The caveman! He's the sheriff!
The scientists named him Pickle, because he was preserved like a pickle. That's cute. Really, that's one of the more interesting aspects of Baki as a series. You just never know what Itagaki is cooking or what insane right turn the story may take next. But said crazy right turns will almost always lead to some high-energy, kinetic fight scenes that can get pretty damn brutal at times. But for as much as I enjoy Baki as a series, if I had to level one major criticism of the series, it would be Itagaki's tendency towards building things up and then having some pretty underwhelming anticlimaxes for said build-up. It's pretty common for shonen anime to introduce a new rival or villain and build them up right out of the gate, say Frieza from Dragon Ball being talked up as one of the most powerful beings in the universe from the moment he appears. But for as much as Itagaki likes to hype up new characters, there are certain examples of them just falling flat when the time comes for them to actually do something practical in the story. Ali Jr., for instance, was talked up a fair bit after his introductory sequence. He certainly had skill on his side, and he even managed to punk Yujiro and get away with it. And yet, when the time came for him to have an actual proper fight, he got bodied and then just sort of vanished back to the shame dimension, never to be seen or heard from again. Or how about the convicts, who all got these really elaborate, impressive introductory sequences showcasing how skilled and powerful they all were. And yet when the time came for them to actually fight the Baki crew, only 2 of them managed to put up anything resembling a decent fight. Some of them just got bodied outright in an often humiliating fashion. Special shout out to Doyle and that ridiculous Looney Tunes ass sequence where Katsumi knocked him out like 5 times in a row, and every time he got back up, picked a fight in the dojo and then got knocked on his ass again.
He thinks he's so great. I'ma show him. Ah, goddammit! Alright, go for the left. He won't see me coming from the. Oh, I saw it coming!
There are those who would argue that these various anticlimaxes are intentional on the part of the author, but the thing is, an intentional anticlimax is still, you know, an anticlimax. And there are other things that will get built up and then just kind of fizzle out when the time comes for the story to pay off on them. Take for instance Pickle. The story spends an awful lot of time saying, oh man, if Pickle kills one of those fighters he's going to eat them. That's just what cavemen do, they eat any opponents they kill. And so there's a great deal of tension when Retsu goes to fight Pickle and loses, so you're led to believe, oh, this is where Retsu dies, he's just going to get eaten by Pickle. But no, Retsu doesn't die, instead Pickle just eats his leg, and then the whole thing of Pickle eating people just kinda never really comes up again in any meaningful way. And while you may think a character losing a leg would be kind of a big deal and seriously impact Retsu's future, no, it really doesn't. He's still an amazing fighter with a peg leg. Itagaki, you just built my hopes up and dashed them. Am I morally correct for wanting to see this man getting eaten alive?
Yes.
But, well, even with these complaints in mind, I do still have to wholeheartedly recommend Baki as a series. Those moments of frustration were genuinely few and far between as I was watching the show. Usually I was too engrossed by whatever insane bullshit was going on at that moment to think about the bad stuff until well after the fact. It's a bit hard to think about plot holes or anticlimaxes when your primordial smooth-brained monkey self is saying, look, Baki is fighting a ghost mantis right now. So do yourself a favor and make some time to hop on board Mr. Itagaki's wild ride. You might find something cool, or something gay.
Ooh, wow, gay!
That is pretty gay.